You ready, Lance?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board of the Village of Tequesta. It is October 21st, 2021. It is 5:30 p.m. And Lance, if I could have a roll call, please.
Janet Strand,
Here.
Steve Egan,
Present.
Elizabeth Shower,
Here.
Leslie Dasher, James Hackett,
Here.
Teresa Maggio,
Here.
Sherry Ember.
Thank you. Next item is the approval for tonight's agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Who seconded?
Jim.
Our next item is the approval of the previous meeting minutes of September 16th, 2021, and I'll open it to the board if they had time to review the minutes that were in their packages.
Yes,
All right, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th, 2021.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Our agenda item for this evening is Variance 04-21. It is an application from Carol and Joseph Frezza for a variance to allow the installation of a privacy fence and a pedestrian gate forward of the building front where Section 78-284 of the Village Code prohibits fences from being located forward of the adjacent or nearest portion of the building front. The address of the property is 366 Riverside Drive in Tequesta, Florida. And Matt, I'll open the floor to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, so if anybody today is testifying on behalf of applicants, will you please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And now I will turn to Planning and Zoning Board members. If any of you have had any ex parte discussions regarding this application or conducted any site visits or investigations to the subject property, can you please disclose them?
I had ex parte with Nielsen right before the meeting.
Thank you. And before we get started, just a couple of more points to go over. This is a variance application, so the Planning and Zoning Board members, you are sitting in your quasi-judicial capacity, which I would like to remind you, you must consider all evidence that is before you at today's proceeding. This evidence takes the form of the application itself, the supporting documentation, the applicant's justification statement that contains the variance criteria, as well as any sworn testimony that you may hear from applicants or town staff, village staff, excuse me. As stated before, sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity, you must consider all evidence before you and make a decision as to whether or not the applicant has proven by competent substantial evidence that they have satisfied all 6 of the village's variance criteria. The variance criteria are located in the justification statement of the application or staff report. They are also located at Section 78-65 Tequesta Code. For the sake of review, I'm just going to go over them now. So the power to grant any such variance shall be limited and contingent by a finding of the Planning and Zoning Board that A, special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same zoning district. B, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. C, or 3, granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. D, or 4, literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of this chapter and would work unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. E, or 5, the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. And E, or 6, the grant of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. So these are the village's 6 variance criteria. The applicant has the burden to establish by competent substantial evidence that they have met each and every one of these variance criteria. This is what you must consider sitting as Planning and Zoning Board members. You are not to consider what is in the general best interest of the village. Rather, you are to consider whether or not the applicant has met their burden as to each of these 6 criteria. If you believe that the applicant has met their burden and proven each of the 6 criteria by competent substantial evidence, then you are obligated to grant the variance. If you believe that the applicant has not met their burden as to one or more of the variance criteria, then the application must be denied. One more point, when it gets to the time where a motion is appropriate, if there is a motion to approve the variance application and grant the variance, then it is presumed that the maker of the motion has found that the applicant has met their burden as to all 6 of the variance criteria by way of competent substantial evidence. If alternatively there is a motion to deny the variance application, then the maker of the motion must specifically state which of the variance criteria they believe that the applicant did not meet. This is just to ensure that the record and the subsequent order accurately reflects what occurs here today. Additionally, as is typical, you can approve the application with conditions, but those conditions must be reasonably related and proportionate in scope to the request being made. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I take it you want to make a presentation.
Well,
Could you state your name, please, and address for the record?
Okay, sure. My name is Carol Frezza. My husband is with me here, Buddy Frezza. I live at 366 West Riverside Drive in DeQuesta, which is on, as you know, Riverside Drive is a well-traveled road, well-trafficked road, and we're 3 houses from the intersection of DeQuesta Drive and Riverside Drive. So it's a very busy section of DeQuesta. So did you want me to do my presentation? Okay,
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. We have lived in our residence since 1998. When we moved in, the front yard was very, very, it was overgrown or whatever, but we kind of liked that look. And over the years, as we have lived there and noticed, there's a lot of people coming in, a lot of people putting fences and gates up, I have considered putting up a gate for the liability of, having people come through our yard. We have had people that have shown up on our dock, which, creates a liability. Anyway, but in the last 7 years, we have 4 grandchildren that we help take care of and are at our house quite often. They're 7, 5, 4, and 2. And that's the greatest liability of all, is these 4 little ones. We have, as you know, a lot of properties along the water. Their backyards are small and their front yards are pretty much their playground. And that's what's in our yard too. We have this open area that is conducive for the kids to be out there, but I'm always concerned that they're going to go a little too far close to the road and escape. So anyway, it's for protection of people coming in and people little ones getting out. And plus we have 2 dogs, so we're also protecting them. Do you have anything to add, Bud?
Could you please stand, sir, and state your name, please?
Sure. My name's Joseph Buddy Frezza. I live at 366 West Riverside Drive, along with my wife Carol. Not only to keep our dogs close to our house, sometimes they get out and we're scouring the neighborhood, trying to find one or both of the dogs. Usually one is the culprit, but anyway, we've had problems with our neighbor's dog coming over into our yard, which we could eliminate. We had a unique situation where somebody stole a golf cart and drove it into our yard and parked it behind the bushes, and, you know, it just, you know, we live in a, you know, our neighbors we're kind of modest according to our neighbors, and as they built their homes, I'm sure as part of their applications, they came here before this board or another group of people, whatever, and got the same approval, and, you know, for a lot of the same reasons, you know. We like our privacy, we don't want door-to-door solicitation coming in, and, you know, first and foremost is the grandkids and the dogs, so they're safe, and, you know, they're not going to be able to wander out of the property, and especially now, it's getting a little more difficult having several of them, not just one or two, you know, so the family keeps growing, and we put a out in the front yard, we have a swing set and, you know, stuff for them to play on, and, you know, I'm sure any of you that are grandparents can't get enough of your grandkids like us, so I think that, you know, denying this application would be unfair in light of all the homes that already have gates. We're like the last one. So anyway, yeah, I think the design fits the. We actually copied our neighbor's fence, so we're repeating the same design, the color and design of the house next to us. Which the newest house is just one of them where Mr. Nelson used to live. A lot of you may remember Mr. Ed Nelson. He was very active in the community. But yeah, we're keeping in line with his, and you know, they have a fence on that side, so all we have to do is tie into it. And our neighbor to the south, he has quite a hedgerow, but nothing to keep his dog on his property and to keep our dogs from going onto his property. I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, the fact of whether neighbors have been granted a variance for a similar fence is not relevant to considering this variance today. This variance is considered on its own merits and not to similar approvals. So,
Thank you,
You
Matt.
know, I wish I would have wrote down the 6 things you wrote, but.
So they're here.
Oh, okay. I thought one of them said something about, you know, that it is important that we're treated in the same way that our neighbors have been treated. Or I misunderstood that.
It's the same rights and enjoyment of the property, but it's not the same approvals that the neighbors have requested.
Okay, all right. I got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to open the floor now for any questions from our board to the Frezzas. Go ahead, Jim, you got the floor.
I mean, we can go down the road, unless you guys.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions, and then potentially some concerns. What actually is the required setback for the fence and the gate? I mean, is there something that says it should be 50 feet off the property, 25 feet off the property?
The staff
Did I miss
report
that?
on page 3 shows that fences, let me just read the code. No wall or fence shall be permitted to extend forward of the adjacent or nearest point of the building front.
Okay, so it's supposed to be way back. If the
Yes.
building front is the building, then it would have to be several hundred feet back. Okay, understand. The two plans we reviewed, one says the gate's 31 feet and one says it's 29 feet. Which is it? I'm looking at a survey from Daley that says 29 feet, and I'm looking at a kind of a hand sketch, the landscaping and everything that says 31 feet. Do we know how far exactly it's gonna be back?
Well, the land drawing, the one that I drew myself, it might not have a, you know, it's the actual
I'm just curious, it doesn't make a huge difference?
I
was
think I
just
can answer
curious.
that question. I don't think the fence is, the road curves there, okay? And I don't think the fence is mirroring the curve of the road, okay? So maybe on one side, it's different than the other
Yeah, it looks
side.
like it's 29 on the north side and 34 on the south.
Right.
Yes,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
it comes back. And our neighbor's fence is the same way. We looked at his is closer to the road on the north side than it is on the south side.
Okay.
And it has to do with the curve of the road.
I gotcha.
Okay, that's fine. I understand that these have been approved in the past, and I actually don't have any problems. I think you've allowed enough room to, you're not creating a stacking problem, for someone waiting to get into the gate. I mean, I think that's that's the whole point of this. The problem I think I have, or I know I have, is I don't believe you've met any of the criterias. Maybe 6, but I don't believe you've met 1 through 5. We all have kids, young grandkids. We can't grant variances on having children on the property. Like we said, we can't grant variances because our neighbors have, it has to be unique to why we're granting the variance. It's not self-created. I think variances are always tend to be self-created, but it's the hardest obstacle to get over. Just because you want a variance doesn't mean you can get a variance. So then it's, as the gentleman said, that you have to prove to us what makes your property unique to be able to then grant one. And so I read through the criteria, and I just had issues with, we all live on streets, busy streets. We all, not all of us, many of us have children, many of us have grandchildren on this. Some of us live in the same zoning district, but we don't have the depth. I mean, I could see the depth being one of the criterias, but that was not brought up in this application. That's unique. Your property is longer than someone else's property in the village, and that allows for us to grant a variance for it allowing to be in the setback. I just had real concerns with how this was written. Just not sure I understand
Well, look, I was very confused as to what I needed to write. So Lance helped me out, and he sent me some sample applications from other residences with similar situations. So I pretty much went by what was said, because the lingo that is needed for this kind of an application is not something I'm used to. So I had to use some kind of reference
I understand
to
that.
write it down. Okay, basically, what we have presented is, and I mean, I could just talk like a grandmother here. I have 4 kids. We had them all day today. All right, we go out in the front yard. All 4 kids are out in the front playing. All right, it's a busy street. It's not a normal street. Okay, this is a main thoroughfare into Cuesta. All right, if one has to go to the bathroom, I have to herd them all. I have to take them all in. They cannot be left outside.
Let me stop you though. I mean, again, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. The problem is just because you have grandchildren and your neighbor doesn't, and they want to come in for this variance, now they aren't allowed to use that as their reasoning to grant a variance. So it's not unique to you to have grandchildren. And it has to be, in my mind, per the code, it has to be unique to the property. What created the property that would need this variance? And I'm having a hard time getting to that with these criteria being met the way they were. I don't see how they have been met in any way other than it's not interfering with any, detrimental to the public. I agree, it's not detrimental to the public. I don't believe it is. And I believe it is the minimum probably amount. That's kind of why I asked exactly what the setback to the gate was. I understand that other neighbors have gotten this. I can't get to granting this at this point with these criteria the way they're written, because I don't see how they've been met.
Okay,
One second, please.
And I'm
I
just
would like
one
to
board
clarify
member.
something. I would
I'm
like
just
to.
one board member.
I would like to be extremely clear about the code. A gate can be installed. You don't need a variance to install a gate. That's part of the code. If you drive around many these large homes, they have gates, but right beside the gate, they have hedges. So many properties, what they do is to install the gate, which is allowed per code. You do not need a variance to install a gate. The variance is specifically for the fence that is going.
Right.
So please, let's be extremely clear about that.
But that's not what this says, Neil. So this says allow installation of a privacy fence and a pedestrian gate
Yeah,
forward of the
because in
building
this
front.
case,
Yes.
let's look at the drawing, please.
Yeah.
Let's look at this page 2.
Page 2,
Page 2,
the van.
they had put together, page 2 of the staff report, it's very clear.
There you go.
Page 2 of the staff report clarify that in this instance, they are having a pedestrian gate along with the fence.
Okay.
However, the vehicular gate is completely allowed per code. You can have, and that's the next application that we will look at it is for the gate, so you do not need a variance to install this vehicular gate.
Okay.
I understand. Okay, I understand. That clarifies that.
I didn't understand that.
One of the things that I did do was I thought I had all my ducks in a row is when my landscaping company came, that I've been using for 20 years, we measured their truck to make sure that they cleared the sidewalk when they would approach the gate. So, I'm trying to make this up for anyone that should come up, an Amazon guy, UPS, whatever, that they can clear the road without that gate being open. So, I'm trying to make it as safe as possible for, people that would need to stop and come in or whatever. And one of the things I like about the pedestrian gate is, like I said, we've been in this property since 1998.
No, I understand.
And, one of the things that we didn't do it right from the get-go, like many of our neighbors have done, is they built a house, or they knocked down a house, they built a house, they put up a fence, they put up a gate, did all that. We kind of like that open, welcoming to people, not closing ourselves off from people. Our circumstances now have changed, all right? We have 6 reasons, and I know they don't fit in this category here. I'm not too sure how I was supposed to present it so that it would, share with you what this real hardship is. I thought I indicated it by putting, and I know I'm not trying to compare myself to others, but I also went and I measured, Pam and Steve's, how far their setback was their fence. I try to do it so it accommodates what's already going on either side of me. So,
You have the right to install a vehicular gate. You don't need a variance to install the vehicular gate.
right, that's on the minor site plan.
Yes,
I
that's
know.
and many residents have installed hedges right beside the gate to create that fence.
Okay, well, my dogs wouldn't, still wouldn't give me the peace of mind that I am looking for.
All right, I'd like to call this back to order. Does anybody else have any other questions? Liz, Teresa, Steve?
I just have one. Nielsa, how many homes along Riverside Drive are there that are similar to this, within the village? Because I have a hard time trying to figure out where Jupiter and, only because, as I said to you previous outside, if we keep approving variances like this, why don't we just change the code for that particular area? And then it just makes it easier. Since it seems to be a thing that everybody along the river wants that particular thing. And sometimes, I mean, if you keep going and passing a variance, why have the variance? Just change the code.
Liz, I couldn't agree more. I thought the exact same thing.
It's just, I mean, if you go back, you know, as I said to you, if you go back and you look at what other municipalities did after a while, they just went back and they changed the code for that particular area.
I think it's a valid point, so the exception doesn't become the rule.
I'm
Well, I think
sorry,
it already
what,
has.
Matthew?
So the exception doesn't become the rule, or?
That's, well, because it's getting harder and harder for me to sit here on this board and when it comes to variances and turning around and saying, okay, is it really a hardship? It's just something that they want and because they're neighbors. And I can see where they're coming from because everybody else. But if you keep approving it and change the code.
Chairperson, that is a valid point, but I do want to bring it back in.
I know,
that the,
it's not
the
addressing
application
this
today
particular
is, you know, that's
Yes.
a legislative process that is outside the purview of the Planning and Zoning Board. I mean, it's a valid point, but we need to consider the application today and applying the evidence that is before us and the criteria that whether applicants have satisfied each of the 6 criteria by competent substantial evidence.
Thank you, Liz. That's
May I add something?
absolutely.
Okay, I think between Tequesta Drive and the canal that separates us from Jupiter, I believe there's 6 homes. The one on the corner of Tequesta and Riverside actually is unique. It's a split lot. It doesn't have waterfront,
Right.
okay? But the house behind it has waterfront. The house next to us, Pam and Steve, was just built, okay? So this is an older couple with no grandchildren, nothing, okay? And I'm trying to picture what went on in this room or before the regular. You're the Board of Adjustment. Is there another planning board or whatever that heard that application?
No.
You
This
hear
board.
everything. I'm sorry. I'm in New Jersey. I've developed and I'm familiar. They have planning boards, and then if you need a lot of variances, you go to Board of Adjustment. Okay, so this is not my first time, dealing with, trying to get approvals for something. But anyway, so I'd love to know what exactly happened for them to be able to get their variance where they have a fence all around
If
their
I
property.
can interrupt you, sir, what we're looking at tonight is specific to your property. That is the purpose of the variance. So we cannot look at necessarily what the Smiths or the Joneses have done in
Right.
the past.
Well,
This is
we're not-
specific
yeah.
to your property, and
Okay.
what we have to determine is that your specific needs follow the criteria that we have to follow.
Okay.
So that's what we're struggling with right now.
All right,
Okay,
this is a
thank you.
quasi-judicial board, and, I think that what we're just seeking is justice in the terms of fairness. We want to be treated fairly. We're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. We're not trying to match.
That was not my intention. That was not what I implied.
What?
This is a variance that is specific
Okay.
to your property.
Okay.
Yes.
And-
That's the bottom
So,
line.
and there's 4 properties, not counting the one on the corner and not counting us, there's 4 properties that have fences and gates, or actually I think 2 of them have walls, okay? Not fences, they have walls, concrete walls across the front. Our neighbor to the south has a wall across the front, okay? And I think 2 houses down from there has a wall. I'm not sure, I should have, I didn't anticipate, reaching out to, in this direction. But anyway,
All right.
I really think that the safety of our, in our privacy, okay, everyone else enjoys privacy, through the use of fences. And, I agree that you probably can save yourself a lot of time with variances if you change the ordinance, but we're not there quite yet. But at this point, we've done this for basically one reason, because now we have kids and we're scared to death about them being, somehow, in the moment of distractions, kids drown, kids, run into traffic, and I think that should be, really primary in your minds here. I mean, we have all these regulations, and
Thank you for your
really-
comments. Right now, what I'd like to do in the essence of time is I'd like to open the floor back up to any of my board members if they have any other questions. Teresa, Steve, comments?
Well, so I just have on page 2, this variance, so what we're trying to debate, what we're debating right here is this in red. Are we gonna let this guy build this little, this fence on the south side of the gate? That's what we're debating.
We are debating if the applicant can put all these fence here, the blue and this, all of this. This is what we are debating.
Wow, okay.
Yes,
The whole
all
thing.
this.
Okay. So this is that's the other second application.
Yes,
Okay.
they can have a
They can
vehicular
put the
gate.
gate. So what we're debating is him putting this fence all
Right.
along there.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thanks for
If you
explaining
look,
that.
look here, see the red? On this plan, see the red? That's the house.
That's his house.
Right,
And
there's
so
the red.
anything
Anything forward.
above
Right.
the front of his house,
Right.
he has to get approval.
Right.
Right, and it's,
Wow.
it's beyond the setback, that's the minimum
Right.
setback.
Well, thanks for explaining that.
And like the husband said, we are.
Go right ahead.
I mean, I'm not gonna speak for any, for me, I think if these criteria stated that the code is restrictive because it requires the setback to be at the front of the house, and you have a long piece of property, and you're forced to put it so far back, so if you look at 1, it says, special conditions existing are particular to the land, structure, or building. And your application speaks and answers to grandchildren, none of which are land, structure, and building, as we know. If this application had spoke to, okay, our house is set back so far from the roadway, and we're required, because the code states we're supposed to have it this far back, that's unique, particular to your land, structure, and building. That should have been the criteria met in this application, and then I could connect the dots.
But you just made that point for us. Thank you very much.
You need to make that point to us, sir.
And, sorry, as a matter of just decorum, please address comments through the chair to other members, just to ensure that it's processed correctly. But
I'm done.
Well, I would love some assistance in how I should rewrite this, because, as I said, I'm a homeowner, I am not a builder, I'm not a contractor, I'm not anything in the building industry, so I was at a total loss as to how to write this, and that's, looking at other applications, I sort of understood what I was supposed to do, but apparently not enough. So I would appreciate any assistance in how to write that so that it fits the needs or the criteria of the board. I just need help.
All right.
This is to you, can we postpone this a month so that they can redo the application, make this, again, I am trying to help, I don't have a problem with your
Right, but
request.
I would love it if you
don't.
would sit down with me, Mr.
Well,
Hackett.
I don't think I can, I can, but
No.
Nielsa
We
can.
can't assist you because we're the governing board.
What I'm saying is in public record right now, and I have to keep it there. I'm just suggesting maybe we instead of denying this, postpone this, so that the application can connect the dots and meet the criteria the way they should be met. This is my opinion, I'm only one board member, but so that we can then, Because part of our problem as a board is if someone comes together, again, with an application and they have the same, we'll have to keep granting these like Liz said. So maybe staff can help you all connect the dots and so we can get this thing moving forward.
Thank you, Jim. Nelson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me please be clear. You are the applicant. You can hire a land use attorney. You can hire a land use planner to help you to fill up this form if you would like to do so. So that's all what I wanted to clarify.
Well, I wouldn't like to do so. And only because they don't really understand, they don't know my property, they don't know me, they don't know anything else, except for the legal.
Okay, Neil, so who did you tell them to go? Because I can't read your lips, you've
Oh,
got your
sorry.
face mask on.
So, no, what I just mentioned is that they are the applicant. They can hire a land use attorney, they can hire a land use planner to assist them to fill the application. And she just replied that they,
Well, I mean, because
They
I'm
cannot.
not, I would really like to know which ones I have to reword, because it sounds to me like I just have to reword this application to make it fit. Because it's not a problem of, no, you're shaking your head, no, I'm confused then as to what you
What
really
you
want me
need
to
to
do.
do is, you need to look at the criteria, and it needs to apply to each of the criteria. So that's where you're at.
Okay, but
And-
which one do you feel like I didn't meet, so I know which ones I have to work on?
Whoever you hire to help you in assisting to meet the criteria set for this variance, they will be able to do the proper wording in which to meet the criteria for the variance. Or at least give us some substance to approve the variance. And you can Google those people.
Do you want me to make?
Do we have, is it 6 voting people here? I'm trying to figure out
There's 5
how
of
many
us.
positive votes we would need to,
There's 5.
there's 5, so we would need 3 votes to get it through.
Is Matt okay if I do? Do you want me to ask them about postponement?
Well, I mean, it sounds like,
I want to do the right thing.
I think if they agree to it, we can move to continue. We have to set the time and date certain.
Okay? Okay.
So,
What I'd like to propose to you, so that we can move forward, is, as an applicant to this board, request that we have a continuance and set a date certain, as far as 30 days, 45 days, et cetera, that you would like to come back and we can readdress this. But the applicant needs to request it of the board.
Okay, so it's not up for a vote right now as to,
we can move to continue, like the chair just said, set it to a certain time and date, and the planning and zoning board will not take a vote on it tonight.
all right, where's that sheet with that?
Does the applicant want to vote tonight?
I just want to go back to number 1. So.
Well, wait,
the
sir, we
written-
need to answer the man's question. He asked you a question directly. Please answer the question for the record.
I guess we'll have to come back if it's, I mean, the feedback seems to be we haven't provided enough, but I think the testimony and the written application is all part of the application, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The sworn testimony, the
My wife
application
did
is.
testify that the house is way back and our backyard's fenced in, but we have no yard back there. And we did
Sir,
already address.
that's fine.
We addressed number 1, we did address number 1. She said that. She said that we have a hardship because our house is back far and we have just a tiny fenced-in yard to the river. So she did deal with number 1. Is there number 2? Did we not deal with number 2 in our discussions?
We can't answer your questions right now.
A question has been posed to you as the applicants if you want to have a continuance. That's a yes or a no
okay.
answer. Wait, hear me out. The question has been posed as the applicants, do you want to have a continuance? That is a yes or a no response. If it is a no response, we'll go to vote tonight. If it is a yes response, we will continue on another evening. In 30 to 40 days, we'll set a date certain, correct? We will set a date certain, and we will readdress it.
Okay, I guess we have to go with a continuance because I don't have any, I mean, I will not be happy with just a gate in my front yard. That will do nothing for the safety of my family.
Understood. Do we need a
Well,
motion on
I'm reading
this?
these things,
Yes.
and I think
Okay.
we met all 6 things.
Just a
but-
moment, sir. Board, I need a motion for the continuance and,
We met all
30
6
days?
things.
Well, it's on the next board meeting.
okay, so it'll be in November?
I'll tell you.
The next board meeting is the 19th?
No, the
November
18th.
18th.
18th, okay.
Of
So,
November?
board- Yes.
No,
So,
it's-
18th, November 18th.
1/8.
I think we will
That's a
be, I
Monday.
think we will be away.
No? It's a Thursday.
oh, I'm October, sorry. Okay, that's right, November 18th.
okay, so board, my request is when you make the motion for the continuance, please say the date and time in the motion.
But I do have a question to ask, just to be the devil's advocate here. Suppose they can't find somebody within that criteria, can they wait until, if we're telling them, is this a drop-dead date for them in order to continue? Matthew, I'm sorry
they-
to just,
I mean, they would have to appear at the next hearing and request another continuance, but we
Good.
can't just keep kicking it. This,
Okay.
you know, this
All
has
right.
to have
I
a,
already know that we are going to be out of town for the November meeting.
okay,
All right.
all right.
So we could go 60 days then and go December if we need to, or into January if we need to.
December would be fine.
Yes.
The 16th?
December 16th.
Okay, December 16th.
Yep, I don't have any plans for that.
Okay. Gives you a little bit more time to think.
Well, that's why I'm saying, because you don't know, okay.
All right,
And sorry, before a motion, just opening it up for public comment and seeing none closed.
thank you. All right, may I have a motion, please?
I would like to make a motion for a continuance to readdress this variance application for December 16th at 5:30 here in the chambers.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Lance, can I have a roll call on this?
Janice Strand,
Yes.
Steve Egan,
Yes.
Elizabeth Shower,
Yes?
Dan Hackett,
Yes.
Teresa Maggio.
Yes. Thank you.
There is another application.
Yes, yes, we're gonna move to the next one.
Well, we should do the same,
Well-
shouldn't we?
All in favor?
Excuse me,
Oh, aye.
there is another application.
Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, our next item is SPM 5-21, which is an application from Carol and Joseph Frezza for a site plan modification to install a 6-foot-high entry gate and 2 5-foot-high entry posts per section 78-284D. The address of the property is 366 Riverside Drive in Tequesta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to be thorough, I do want to swear anybody in providing testimony today on behalf of SBM 5-21. If you can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And members of Planning and Zoning Board, if any of you have had any ex parte discussions regarding this application or made any site visits or investigations to the subject property, can you disclose them?
No.
Thank you.
All right, I will open the floor to Carol.
Okay, well, it seems kind of interesting to have a gate.
Can I make a
And
motion
nothing
to-
else, but-
Can I make a motion to continue this to the December 16th meeting as well? I mean, we don't need, you're gonna come back and we're gonna look at this again, so you might as, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
They are separate
I
applications.
mean, if you want to make it, you
separate.
can, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Well,
but
we can
if-
get it done since, I mean, if you want, it's,
It's two separate,
Yeah, it's
Items.
two separate items, right. As Nilsa explained later, if I understood her correctly, the gate is part of section 78-284. So it's just what we're looking at here is a modification to the site plan that they can install the vehicle gate. This has
Yes.
nothing to do with the pedestrian gate or the fence. This is
fine.
just the vehicle gate and two posts on either side.
and I will make a motion to approve SPM 5-21 to install a 6-foot high entry gate and a two 5-foot high entry posts as per section 78-284D.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nope. Oh.
Motion carries. And I'll open the floor to staff comments. Go right ahead.
No comments from me.
Nelson?
No comment.
No? Okay. I'll open the floor public. We have no public. We'll close the floor. Board comments.
As I said, is there some way that, that we can address this? Because I am sure that the same thing is going to continue to happen, like the country club has got their own set of rules and stuff like that, but this is something that's going,
I listen to the board, and if the board is suggesting that staff look into it, I welcome that direction. So definitely we can look at it. We have, through the years, changed many code regulations to adjust,
yes,
so.
because I've been privy to that where we've changed it because people kept coming back, especially like we've been very blessed with not having a hurricane, but and people are redoing, and then it's the same thing, and we're addressing the same thing. So we went back and we changed the code. So is there any,
I appreciate the comment, and definitely I will look into it.
Do you need a motion for that?
do you
No,
need a
we don't
motion from the
No, we're
board?
just
don't
making
think so.
comments.
No, it's not an item on the
Okay.
agenda, so we are in
We're just
comments.
making comments.
Okay.
I asked Lance earlier, these staff reports, when we get these, do we get a recommendation from staff? Because staff's reviewed it, it makes sure they meet code and all that, and then they give a recommendation, which we get at a lot of municipalities in Palm Beach County and in unincorporated Palm Beach County. I was told you don't do that. Is it something that's been discussed?
Historically, since I've been providing services to the village, which October 10 was 11 years, I know, time flies. We have not provided recommendation. We provide an analysis of the code. We show all the code section. We put, we provide an analysis of the facts. But historically, staff has not provided recommendation, and I'm very aware other municipalities, staff provide recommendation. Historically, the village staff has not provided recommendations.
If I had one recommendation, I would be that these variance applications should absolutely have one, because it allows you to then determine if they've met the criterias. So at least before it gets to us, that staff believes it's met criteria, because these are different. As you called me yesterday to tell me that these are different than just a site plan approval or anything else. That's our burden to make sure it meets, everyone has to make sure it meets code and, aesthetics, whatever. But a variance is real specific with these criterias. And I think it would be helpful if staff could make a recommendation that they felt it met the criterias, so that we could then, okay, yes, we believe, or not. It might make it easier, my suggestion.
Yeah, but Jim, we've had instances here where, Nielsen presented stuff. I just remember the one property owner with the front of the house, and if she had given us, the board was divided, totally divided on that whole piece of property. But I don't think a staff analysis for a variance is a good thing, because it's something that we, as a governing board, it's our responsibility to sit here and decide whether or not, because we had a whole workshop in 2020 on this, and that was after our big variant, you know, and it's just really, it's difficult. And I've been on this board since it's existed, so it's really difficult. But Nielsen has become more and more detailed in giving us more and more information, as well as Lance. I mean, so, I mean, I'm happy with what they give us, so.
And I agree, because I appreciate when you do speak, and you do at these meetings, there's a lot of times when we're looking at something like this, and you will give us information that I hadn't thought of yet. So I appreciate when you do speak up and say, and
I think the issue, the reason why I'm saying it is because of this exact situation. They got in front of this board and did not meet the criteria that we felt, and I think it would be helpful if they, again, we're not this huge municipality, they have the time, they have the resource to be able to come and say, Nielsen, all right, you have to meet these criteria, here it is, Nielsen reviews it, and Lance reviews it, and says, this, you know, it doesn't meet the criteria. Let's try to reword it, give them a little bit of direction, the applicant a little bit of direction, to be able to go back, do it, and then, maybe it's not a recommendation, but, I mean, it at least is telling us that staff believes they've met. And I think that would help the applicant. Doesn't need to help us. We still have to make the decision. We still have to believe it also, but we can help the applicant. And if we're not going to change the code, at least then allow them an opportunity to, just my thoughts. So.
I strongly am listening. My ears are, and I think I take into heart the idea of looking at the code, especially for these lots that have long, you know, they are very long and they are peculiar. So I think that's,
and
we should do it.
Yeah.
So I truly appreciate that recommendation. So I will speak with the village manager and express, you know, so I can have direction from him to proceed with the study and consideration of adjusting the code.
Any other comments, board?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
All in favor? Anybody opposes? It's your problem, though. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. And Ms. Frezza, thank you.
So I'm definitely on the November